My husband, Chris, 36, and I, female 33, planned a 1-week vacation to an out-of-state ski resort with our 2 little kids. His cousin, Martin, male 38, lost his wife to cancer 6 months ago. She left behind 2 kids nearly the same age as my kids. My husband is devastated by his friend's loss. They're so close that he sees him as a friend, understandably so. He tries to help Martin and the kids, but, in my opinion, he's been doing a little too much for them lately. He suggested we take Martin's kids with us to the resort to get their minds off the grief a bit. I apologized and said it wouldn't work, since we barely have the budget to cover our kids. He insisted and then tried offering compromises, but I still said it wouldn't work. He was obviously angry, but dropped it eventually. 2 days before the trip, I found out that my husband had booked 2 tickets for Martin's kids instead of our own kids. I was the one paying, but he insisted on handling the booking and making reservations. I was stunned. I called him out on it, and he apologetically talked about how Martin needs some alone time away from the kids, how the kids need a breather, and how they need this vacation more than our kids do. I flipped out at him, asking if he was seriously okay with prioritizing other kids over his own. He said it wasn't about priorities, but doing what's needed to help those kids out. I asked how his own kids would react once they found out, but he said, "I'm sure they'd understand." I said no and decided to cancel the vacation altogether. He freaked out on me, saying that I can't do that and make him look small in front of his cousin and family since they praised him for this nice gesture. I refused to negotiate it, but he called me selfish and cruel towards grieving kids and said that he'd make sure our own kids know how I'm behaving towards the other kids by robbing them of the fun they so much need and deserve. We haven't been talking, and he's so angry and keeps throwing a fit after fit about it, claiming I ruined it for everybody when I canceled. I feel bad for the kids, I do, but I don't think what he did was right. Am I the idiot for canceling a vacation because my husband gave our kids tickets to his widowed cousin's kids? Not the idiot. This isn't about him caring for his friend's kids. Instead, he's using them to look like a big man and so charitable. If he was either of those things, he would have used his own money. This is about his image. What was his plan for the caretaking of your kids during the vacation? Last-minute babysitter paid by you? How exactly would one do that anyway? Mommy's bad because she won't let me leave you at home while we go on a trip with someone else's kids. He's spewing nonsense to get her to fund his own PR campaign. And let's not forget that using OP's money for other purposes is theft. OP, it's time to speak to a divorce attorney if he's going to try and weaponize your own children against you like that. Yeah, she was paying for the whole thing too. Nowhere in the post does it say he was willing to cover the cost of his cousin's kids. He initially wanted her to cover the 2 extra kids with no apparent contribution for him. When she said no, he essentially scammed her. Tell your husband to stay home with his cousin's kids while you take your kids on vacation. Don't cancel your plans because of your husband's need to feel like the hero. He's free to have your cousin's kids for that week at your home so his cousin can have some alone time. And you can go away on your planned vacation with your children. Everybody wins. This is gold. It is actually a compromise. If the husband's true goal is to give everyone a breather, this accomplishes said goal beautifully. Think about everything your husband has done for your family and if he will ever prioritize your family. If the answer is no, think if this will be good for your kids and their future. Good luck, OP. I, 27 female, have been dating my boyfriend, 28, for a little over 2 years now, and I'm 7 months pregnant. Last week we went to his sister's wedding. I'm not super close with most of his family, but we grew up in the same town, so I knew many of the people at the wedding. I haven't told a lot of people about my pregnancy. I've had a lot of anxiety about miscarrying throughout it, so we decided only to tell close friends and family. When I post on social media, I wear baggy clothes and pose to hide my bump. I wore a loose-fitting dress to the wedding, but it was still very obvious that I was pregnant. Because I've been keeping my pregnancy pretty hidden, it was a lot of people's first time seeing me pregnant, and I had people coming up to me pretty much all night congratulating me. I could tell my sister was upset about it, so I tried to downplay it when people came over, but there wasn't much I could do about it. The day after the wedding, my boyfriend's mom called him angry that I wouldn't say anything to people beforehand because I took the attention away from his sister all night. I feel bad for his sister, but I don't think I should have to make a pregnancy announcement before I'm ready, and I'm not sure how I could have told people beforehand, aside from calling up the entire guest list, which is just ridiculous. My boyfriend is on my side, but his mom's sister and apparently a lot of his other family members are upset with me. Am I the idiot? Edit to clarify, the bride knew. Everyone's immediate family knew about it. Close friends knew about it. My boyfriend and I grew up in the same town, and we went to the same high school, but we didn't start dating or even really become friends until after we graduated college. Many wedding guests knew us, but we hadn't seen them in years. We kept it a secret until we made it to 20 weeks. Only immediate family and a few friends knew. And since then, it's been more like we haven't been going out of our way to tell people. This expectation that people notice nothing in the world aside from the bride for the entire day because, let's face it, no one ever cares if the groom gets attention, is ridiculous. The bride can't be talking to everyone at once, but apparently, when she's not talking to people, they should all be staring adoringly at her and whispering to each other about how wonderful she is. Not the idiot. It's not like you made a big announcement. She invited you, and you just existed as a pregnant person. If she can't handle your existence at the expense of her fragile little ego, why did she let you come to start with? This notion of stealing attention away from the bride just because you have a congratulatory conversation with someone else is so absurd. People do not spend the entirety of wedding receptions just following the bride with their eyes. Yes, the couple is the focus during the ceremony and pivotal moments of the reception, but otherwise you're just eating and mingling and catching up with the people you haven't seen in a while. This theme of insecure and fragile brides needing to be the center of attention at apparently every moment is pathetic. Everyone will remember this as a wedding day, not as a pregnancy coming out moment. OP doesn't owe anyone a baby announcement. She's told both the immediate families and her close friends. So what else should she have done? Submitted it to her high school class notes? Taken out an ad in the local paper? Facebook isn't entitled to our life announcements. People with whom we're not in touch are not entitled to our life announcements. And an anxious pregnant woman should not be socially required to announce her pregnancy to acquaintances for the comfort of someone else. So my parents broke up before I was born. They weren't married or anything like that either. I'm not sure of all the details, but what I do know is my dad settled down with my stepmom when I was 3, and my mom was not my stepmom's biggest fan. I know she made life difficult for them. I know she was jealous about my stepmom being introduced into my life while I was so young, but mom had primary custody of me back then and had it until I was 7 when I wanted more time with my dad, which she agreed to. I only know of the bad blood because of my stepmom. She would talk a lot about how possessive my mom was of me, how jealous she was, and how she had treated them badly. I was even shown some of the stuff my mom had written to her. It annoyed me to be told because I had no idea my mom felt this way. She was willing to let me spend more time at my dad's, which meant less time with her. She would let me call my dad or other paternal family members while I was with her. I can't say she didn't mistreat my stepmom. There's proof of that. But honestly, that doesn't change how I feel about my mom. I did choose to live with her full time again when I was 9 because I hated being around my stepmom's constant need to bring up stuff to me. She tried to use me as a go-between, and Dad wasn't great about stopping her. I'm a senior in high school right now, and my dad and stepmom keep talking about how I'll graduate in May next year and how excited they are. I'm going to graduate older than I should have because I got really sick in 2018, 2019, and had to repeat it. It was tough, and that made their talk even worse. My stepmom has told me that she doesn't feel comfortable with my mom being there after everything, and that she thinks I should be at a point where I help protect them from someone who has caused so much heartache. I told her my mom would be there because I love my mom and want her to watch me graduate. Stepmom told me I needed to look at the bigger picture. I told her I didn't care what my mom had done to her, that she was still my mom and I still loved her. She told me I would make the day very difficult for her, and that as my parent, she would hope that I'd want to make it easy for her. I told her she didn't have to come if she expected to be treated as the most important person there. She couldn't talk, and I continued by telling her that I would never pick her over my mom, and that she needed to learn to accept that. She told me to get out of her face. My dad was cranky about the whole thing too. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Regardless of how your mom felt or acted towards your stepmom, she never forced that view on you or even told you about it. Your stepmom doing this is highly toxic and manipulative, especially given the young age you were when she started doing so. Tell her the only person causing drama is her, and if she can't put everything aside to just be there and support you on your day, she shouldn't bother attending at all. Exactly this. It seems like the stepmom is the toxic one, engaging in parental alienation. None of this should have even been told to a child. At least the mom left the child out of adult matters. I wonder if it's even possible that the trouble your mother caused was because your stepmother was overstepping too early, and your mother was just trying to make sure she didn't lose you. I'm just speculating. OP, this woman doesn't care two bits about you. She only wants to one-up your mother and hurt her by taking over what's left of her, her daughter. Your father also supports this expedition fueled by hate and manipulation. To conclude, they're not good people. Your mother's definitely a better one. Have a happy graduation with your mom and cut off your stepmom if possible. All the best. My husband's brother, both 30s male, was adopted at birth. My husband is younger and was not adopted. Their older sister is also biologically related. Our families have been friends since I was a kid, so I've always known that my brother-in-law is adopted. Brother-in-law doesn't like to talk about being adopted. He's never had an interest in knowing anything about his birth parents and shares many of the same physical features as my husband and his parents, so no one ever questions if he was adopted. Because brother-in-law doesn't like the topic, no one ever brings it up. Brother-in-law met his wife, my sister-in-law, in their 20s. When they first started dating, she made a couple of comments about some physical attributes between the three siblings that made it seem like she didn't know he was adopted. I didn't say anything because it didn't seem like a big deal, and it's not my information to share. Both sister-in-law and I are struggling to get pregnant now. We were on a hike, just us two, and she commented that maybe it's not us and our husbands that have some shared genetics that's the problem. I made a surprised look when she said that. She asked me about what the look was about, and instead of saying it was nothing, I told her it wasn't my place to discuss it, and she should talk to brother-in-law. After we went home, I got some furious texts from brother-in-law that I should not have even indicated that he wasn't biologically related to his family, and that sister-in-law was upset. Sister-in-law texted me, upset that we all knew and that she didn't know he was adopted and didn't say anything. She said she didn't care that he was adopted, but felt like an idiot that everyone knew but her, and that I should have just told her years ago. My husband says I should have just stayed out of it and followed sister-in-law's suggestion that it was a shared biological problem. My sister-in-law is mad that no one told her, especially me since we are now friends. My brother-in-law's angry that I told his secret. I'm getting blamed for holding a secret that wasn't mine to share. Am I really the idiot here? I didn't mean to expose my brother-in-law's adoption, but I felt a little cornered. Edit. I thought she would have figured it out within the last 5 years because our husbands are less than 5 months apart in age. That's also why I think I looked surprised. Less than 5 months apart in age? Is your sister-in-law clueless? Or did your brother-in-law lie to her about his birthday? Maybe your sister-in-law is unaware of your brother-in-law's birth year. She couldn't be that unaware. It's just hard for me to believe this. Well, your brother-in-law should have told his wife the truth before they were married. He doesn't need to tell the world, but a spouse should know these things. Hopefully, your brother-in-law cools down and forgives you, but you're still not the idiot. Both brother-in-law, sister-in-law, and husband blame you for something realistically brother-in-law's fault. I 100% understand being private and not wanting to discuss certain aspects of your life, but you've been with someone for 5 years, married them, and are now trying to start a family with them. You need to tell them certain things, because both as a sign that you trust them with the information, and because the information has real-world implications, i.e., not being able to get pregnant easily. She should have known sooner, and you were correct to say that it wasn't your place to tell her. Also, as an adoptee, I would be concerned about the medical history of the biological family. It makes me wonder if brother-in-law's been lying to her about these things to cover it up. But was your brother-in-law an affair baby? Could that even be why everyone looks similar and your brother-in-law doesn't want to talk about it? Secrets can destroy trust, but getting them out can be healing. Just a random thought and possibly too much TV. He's not an affair baby. When I was a teenager, my husband and I were looking for something else in his mom's office and found the adoption file. I'm ashamed to say we read it. Both birth parents were listed in it. We never told anyone, including brother-in-law, that we found the file and read it. Still regret snooping it to this day. So, in my neighborhood, the houses are built sort of like a sandwich. So there's my house, my driveway, a shared hedge and fence, my neighbor's driveway, and then his house. I hope that's clear. My neighbor has 2 kids, each of whom has their own car. So they have 4 cars and my family has 2. There is no street parking, and our driveways lead to detached garages. His kid has the bad habit of parking in my driveway when I'm not home. He can park between our houses and walk to his side entrance. I'm sort of done asking him not to do this, but I'm not calling law enforcement or towing him. I didn't want grief in the neighborhood. Yesterday, he did it again, so I parked behind him and went for a bike ride. When I got back, I noticed that the hedge was torn up. It was kind of hard to miss. I guess what happened is after he got home, everyone else left. I have no idea why he didn't call a cab or an Uber. What he did instead was drive over the hedge between our driveways. These aren't little raspberry brambles. These are 30-year-old hedges. Anyway, his dad is sitting there looking at the hedge. He asked me if I know what happened. I said, come over for a beer and we can check my surveillance. So now the kid is angry because he has to pay to replace the hedge, and his car's all scratched up. I guess he had been warned he would be fired if he was late for work again. So the kid thinks I'm the idiot for blocking him in on purpose, which I guess I did. But the consequences were completely unintended. I was planning on moving the car to let him out when I got home. He could have called an Uber. Heck, he could have called in sick. Am I the idiot? I said, come over for a beer and we can check my surveillance. Not the idiot, and you deserve a medal for this line. The neighbor kid parked on your property. On top of it, damaged something, and had the audacity to be angry to be held accountable for his actions. Well, welcome to adulthood. Yeah, OP handled this like a champ, but I guarantee your neighbor will not pay you enough for your 30-year-old hedges. You need a good lawyer. You said you don't want neighborhood drama, but they brought it to you in the form of possibly hundreds of thousands of dollars in financial loss to restore your hedge.